Being able to recognize certain chord progressions in any context is helpful, but especially in jazz, because jazz is really where I think the best improvisers were born. Being able to improvise over these chord progressions is a separate lesson in itself, but ear training and understanding how these chord progressions work together in a harmonic analysis point of view is important and something you should learn. So if it's not something that you're familiar with already, this will be a really great lesson for you, and if it is something that you're familiar with, you'll probably recognize these chord progressions, but have a nice refresher. Maybe you can think about improvising over these various chord progressions, what approach you might take. If you're interested in learning how to improvise over chord progressions like these and learning about harmonic analysis, then check out Guitar Super System. It's the course that I teach, and it's linked down in the description below. Without further ado, let's get into some of the most popular jazz chord progressions. So our first progression is definitely the most popular chord progression, and it is a 2-5-1 in a major key, and we're going to choose D major to play this chord progression out. So this can be found, like I said, in countless pieces of music, in all 12 keys, many different ways you can play it. As you can see here, we're in the key of D major. The 2 would be E minor, so it's E minor, and then the 5 chord, which is a dominant chord, in this case A7, and then back to that 1 major. So you can, like I said, mess with the voicings. Don't always have to play root position, major 7 chords. Here's a 9 chord, major 9. So maybe after this root position major chord, we could play a minor 9 chord, and then maybe a 13 chord to hold that kind of like a voice leading thing, back to the root. And then always a nice resolution is the major 9 chord. The next jazzy chord progression that I think is very popular in a lot of music is a 1-6-2-5. So instead of a 2-5-1, it's a 1-6-2-5, and we can use the key of C major. So again, working on your harmonic analysis chops, what would be the 6th chord? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So A, and we know that the 6th chord in a major key is minor. And then we're going to go to that 2 minor chord in the key of C, would be D minor, 7. And of course the 5 is going to be our dominant 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, G. Doing all this jazz stuff is making me talk all cool. So 1-6-2-5 might be something like this. As you can see, as you get comfortable moving through these chord progressions, you can add in as much as you can fit into a measure if you want to be fancy, you know? The next chord progression we'll look at isn't necessarily a chord progression that is something that continues constantly. It's actually more of a transitional type of chord progression, but it is found in a lot of jazz music. So I'll just play it for you first and then I'll break it down. So basically what's going on here is a lot of modulation, but it's kind of acting as a 2-5-1, the first chord progression that we did. It's just chromatically descending 2-5-1s, if that makes sense. So we start here, we eventually, our ending key is going to be B flat. And if you also notice, these are all dominant 7th chords, so there is really in a nutshell, I'm not going to get into the whole nuts and bolts of it, but dominant seventh chords are very, very malleable when it comes to especially quick transitional passages like this. Jazz has kind of a reputation for being like, oh, look at all these chromatic notes. That's kind of an ignorant view of jazz, but in this case, it is kind of funny to see that these notes have no business being here, but it really sounds great, especially in a jazz blues context where we have a 1 and a 4 and a 5, 4. So just a bluesy progression, but this is like a turnaround in that genre. So instead of a traditional blues, it might be like this turnaround works great. So the next chord progression on our list here is actually not necessarily a chord progression, but it's a chord used in common chord progressions that really gives a jazzy character, and it is a diminished seventh passing chord. So I will show you a regular kind of C major progression, and then I'll show you how this diminished 7 passing chord can fit in. So we'll take key of C major, and we'll start here on the 3. 2, 5, 1. So we're going to do a 3, 2, 5, 1. So here's that in kind of a cooler rhythmic context. Now, a diminished 7 chord will be added in between these first two chords. It's a connector between minor chords in any chord progression. So you can use it as a device to kind of spice up or create a bridge between two diatonic chords. And these chords are really cool for adding tension and then releasing that tension onto a diatonic chord. And the chromaticism that happens is really cool for bass. So it's just an overall really great chord, and you can use it in a lot of different places. So one more time here. And if we wanted to embellish that, if you know anything about diminished 7 chords, which you can definitely learn in my course, Guitar Super System, link down in the description, diminished 7th chords are movable. So you can just take the same shape, move it up a minor third. So that leaves this door open, doesn't it? So this next chord progression is 4 to 6, and it really is a neat one because it reminds me a lot of one of my favorite bands, Radiohead, and it uses this 4 minor chord, and the key to learning to hear this kind of progression is the movement from the 4 major to the 4 minor. I've done a lesson called The Chord That Changes Everything, which focuses on the minor 4, so I think this is a really important thing to reiterate. It's used by tons of jazz composers and, like I said, pop bands like Radiohead and other really great bands. And the Beatles, of course, are another band to have used it a lot, but you'll recognize the sound, I think, pretty much immediately. So we'll use the key of C to kind of show it off here. So as you can hear there, that 4 chord, which is an F in the key of C, we make it minor. And it's really that, that cadence is really popular, like I said, in pop music and jazz, but it's really about the harmonic rhythm. It doesn't take a lot of ear training to hear that one because it's so cool. And you don't always have to resolve it. You can go off on a tangent, so something like this. So the last one I'm going to show you is a kind of an advanced one. It's a really impactful sound, a really emotionally gripping chord progression that you can apply to multiple keys, but it's just something I think every guitar player, no matter if they're a jazzer or not, should know. So here's how it goes in the key of D minor, the saddest of all the keys. So there you have it, friends, a variety of very interesting, awesome jazz chord progressions for you to take and learn your ear training, work on your ear training, so you can transpose these to any key as you work on your harmonic analysis to figure out how they fit into any key. I want to thank you for watching this video, and of course, check out all the other videos on my channel if you want more music theory stuff like this, or consider signing up for my guitar course, Guitar Super System, linked down in the description. I think we have over 10,000 students enrolled at this point, which is amazing, and I'm extremely humbled and satisfied with all the work that I put in and continue to put in. So again, thanks for watching, and until next time, keep shredding.